Hi everyone, welcome to X's and O's with LeRoy Butler. We could be here all day, really. Probably do about a 3-hour show on this.
It'd be fun.
It would. We saw a lot of different things. But we're going to start out and show you the good and the bad of what the Packers were trying to do against Seattle. And some potential for things they can do in the future. And we're going to start out with this 4-3 look that they showed, which is, you see 3 linebackers, and they use Julius Peppers and Mike Neal as defensive ends. And then they've got Matthews in here as a linebacker. So why don't you show what happened with Matthews, and then I'll show you where the run and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I always like to start out what the quarterback sees. Now, obviously, Russell Wilson has not seen this look from the Packers. They didn't show it in preseason very much. They didn't show it at all. So when he first saw Matthews in the middle, you know, I'm sure his coach said, whatever, doesn't matter, just run it. Just run the offense. But all of a sudden, Matthews disappears, and now he's red here
So
on
he
the
walked
outside.
up. He just walked
He just
up
kind of
from
walked
there.
down here now, which is good. The Packers have an element of surprise, so you would think it would be a good result.
Right. Now.
So now here's the second progression.
We're going to go into a read option type play, and they ran this a lot. So this is Percy Harvin, and he's going to run right in
He's
front
coming
of
in motion.
Russell Wilson.
Yep.
So Russell Wilson can either hand this ball off to this guy or give it to Percy Harvin.
Right.
And actually, this was Turbin on this play.
Yep.
And on this play, he handed it to the running back. Now, why don't you show why this worked for the Packers?
This is basically why it worked. And you still got this. The integrity of your defense is fine. You get Julius Peppers to be very unselfish to basically crash here. And the tight end just kind of came off, and Matthews came, and he just trusted his skills, and he ran down and made like a big play on the running back right there. Now, the coaches on the Seattle side are saying, hey, it's okay, because we got something for that, and we'll get into that later. But that's the aggressiveness of having something that Seattle has not seen. They've never seen Matthews on this particular side. He's always just lined up on the right side.
And not only that, he's next to Julius Peppers.
He's next to Julius
So you have
Peppers.
to. So offense has to say to itself, okay, how are we going to block Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers? And even if we're going to run to the other side, you know, they decide to block Peppers, and he comes in and backsides it.
And Percy Harvin, again, I mean, he's very dynamic. He just came in motion and didn't get the ball. Just kind of goes through the motion. Now, the second progression to that, they start giving it to Percy Harvin.
Right. And here's a play where it absolutely devastated them, where they did the same thing, and only this time they give it to Percy Harvin, and this time Morgan Burnett came down here.
Yep.
And they hand it to Percy Harvin, and he takes it. Now, this time Julius Peppers is right here, and he really slow reads it.
They didn't even block him.
Yeah.
They didn't even block him.
Right.
They just crashed
it.
it. He came off, they crashed down. They said, we're going to do the option off of 56. And it's kind of a tough play, but at the same time, you get your most dynamic player out on the perimeter. The problem with that is 42 has to be aggressive.
Right. So what happened was he came down here, and he can play this tight end who's going to go in the flat, but he's also got help from Tramon Williams.
Tramon is standing right behind him.
Right. So what you saw was that he just kind of hung here and let this tight end block him and take him up the field.
Yep.
Your contention was what?
My thing is,
done.
Back in the 96 when we played our defense, whenever you have a guy like this, say if it was, say, Metcalf or just a real fast guy, once he started in motion, I'm coming up. Or I'm going to tell my end, Reggie, get a little wider, because they're trying to get the ball to this guy. So he needs to come and force the action. If he forces the action here, you got 2 guys that can make this play, and you got more pursuit coming.
And if this guy releases, then he becomes Tramon's man.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because the only thing he has is the flat.
So what you're saying is, instead of letting yourself block, get up there and
force it.
At the worst, you're forcing him inside, and it's a 5-6 yard gain.
Right.
Instead, he sort of slow played it, And
he
went
got
out that
outside
way.
for, I think, 13 yards. So
Yeah,
they could have held it, by doing that, they could have held it to 5 yards. And you can live with that.
And that's what we talked about in 5 Questions was with Clinton Dix. He'll come up. He showed that ability.
He did show that ability.
And be aggressive.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. And we know that other teams, having seen Colin Kaepernick do this against them, and watching it this week, are gonna read out.
The Jets are going to put this particular play in.
Yeah.
But it'll be Chris Johnson, who's very fast. Or it might even be Michael Vick.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
They do a lot of trick stuff with the Jets.
Right.
So the Packers got to understand, if you get a guy in motion, he's very dynamic, a fast guy, the guy who's contending to this side, just get a little wider, because you can always go back in.
Right, and be aggressive.
And be very aggressive.
Right. Okay, and now next we're going to show you how there is a little lack of chemistry between the inside linebackers.
That could be a problem.
Okay, so we'll look at the inside linebackers and how this was just bad chemistry the whole game long. And this is a play, a handoff to Marshawn Lynch. And the Packers are in this 4-3 look again. Mm-hmm. And this time, Marshawn Lynch is going to take the ball here. And so what happens is we've got Julius Peppers here. The tight end comes down to block him. This guy comes out here. Everybody's moving sort of to the right because the run is coming that way. And then the center comes out to block A.J. Hawk. Now, sort of run us through what went wrong here and why this wound up being a
Well, it's all about the first step. The first step is a great linebacker, average linebacker, or Pro Bowl linebacker. It's just your first step. The action of the play tells the backside linebacker, Brad Jones, he can be what we call slow to go, over the top, or force flow. Now, I'm not really sure what he was thinking here. I think he was kind of guessing, to be politely. But one thing with A.J. Hawk, since it's coming to your side, you got to stay in your gap. If you got guys in these particular gaps, the action would show him he should just kind of attack it.
Because Daniels is coming here and has this outside.
Yeah, they got everything up. So the A gap is the problem, but the A gap, Tom, it moves. See, it's here. It can move all the way over here. So, and I'm not real sure why A.J. Hawk did. He did, instead of doing this, he did this.
He dipped around this. He tried to get around the center of this.
And I don't know what he saw. And to be honest with you, Jones should be attacking here.
Right.
You know, just with the flow of it. But he went here.
Yeah, he let this tackle take him to the outside.
So it's hard to explain that. I don't know, because sometimes as players, we see stuff that we think is taking us to the ball, or we're guessing, instead of let the play take you to it. If you know I got both A gaps in the 4-3 defense, if you go to the A gap, it'll take you to the ball. And you got to know these A gaps, they'll move on you. It may go all the way out here because the linemen are running down. Everybody's doing this.
Right.
And A.J. Hawk, if he attacks it, he's going to hit Marshawn Lynch, 3-yard gain. But Mike Daniels got a chance to get him when he comes through here.
Right.
But he was being blocked. And next thing you know, the
plus,
receiver kind of cut off Matthews, and it just got a bunch of trash.
And there's no one here to slow Lynch. So Lynch has got this head of steam with nobody there.
Right.
If this is what's mind-boggling is that, okay, so if Jones stays here, there's no reason for Hawk. There's none reason to stay here. Then he can just, even if he's getting blocked, he can hold up with that center, and then either Matthews or Daniels will come in. And
I know it may be kind of hard for the fans to see, but I really want you to pay attention to these two guys. They can't cross each other.
Now we saw that on another play.
Yes.
We saw that on one of Percy Harvin's
runs. But it's almost as if these guys are thinking they're by themselves, because that's what makes you do that.
Yeah, they weren't.
You got to say, my guy's over there, I trust him. He's going to go where he's supposed to go, and I'm going to go where I'm supposed to go. Because remember, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys in front of you, and you got 3 guys. You got 7-man front, and they got 5. They got 6 to block 7. So it should be a free guy to make this play.
On this particular play we looked at, so Jones takes the fake and goes this way, and you're like, there's no reason for him to go there.
Possible.
Stay in your gap right there.
Because he crossed over on, I'm going to just draw 50 there if you can see it. And A.J. Hawk was like, oh, I got to reroute. Now Harbin is out on the run. There's nobody in that gap.
Right.
So it's something that coaches will correct, but you really shouldn't see that right now because you got 3 months to correct what you saw last year.
Yeah.
The same plays against San Francisco. They ran the same thing.
Right. It's troubling
So,
that they
yeah.
haven't cleaned that up. So we'll see
Yeah.
what happens because you know the Jets are going to.
The Jets are definitely going to run. And one thing I will say this. Normally the Packers, they're very good at making corrections, but sometimes making a correction can create another problem.
Right.
So they just got to fix it.
Well, and when you're making corrections, you're a step behind. That's
true.
The offense of the next week is already working on looking ahead, and you're
Well,
looking
most
back.
offenses are normally ahead of the defenses, but you're 100% right. If I'm wasting time telling you about your steps, I could be telling you how to stop their overall blocking scheme.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us in first week, and maybe we're a little rough today. I
know. That's our frustration right there.
We will be cleaner as the weeks go on. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.